Hallo liebe Leute und willkommen zum Afterfinale. Ja, wir haben ja die 100%. Wir haben alles. Außer halt die Sachen, die man nicht kriegen kann, beziehungsweise Silksong Exclusive Zeugs. Und halt zwei Sachen aus Akt 2, die ich aber nicht nachholen kann. Heute ist es soweit, dass wir alles durchlesen und uns alles im Spiel anschauen, was es zurzeit gibt. Ja, ich beginne einfach und werde euch vorlesen. Ich laber nicht viel rum, los geht's. Silk, fine thread spun from the soul of its creator. Highly coveted for its remarkable strength and mystical properties, used to heal wounds, extend life and weave powerful runes. Shell shards, hardened fragments of shell and bone, used in the crafting of tools and traps. Rosaries, beds carved from various materials, used as a measure of faith and traded as currency. Each is etched with a fine patterned design. Shell rosaries, beds carved from polished shell. The finer material reflects their increased value. Pearl rosaries, gleaming pearl carved over with intricate markings. The rarest and most highly valued rosaries in all of Falloon. Mossberry, sweet fruit that grows in most environments. Its seeds are toxic to most creatures. Mossberry stew, thick, syrupy soup of mossberries and druidic herbs, sweet and aromatic, but poisonous to most creatures. Pilgrim shawl, simple garment worn by several pilgrims over the ages, torn, tattered, and repaired many times over. Flintstone, long burning rock from the base of Falloon, mined and used by the Citadel in its forgings. Flint gem-like organ, taken from a flint beetle, produces incendiary sparks when abraded and may explode if cracked or dropped. By the way, ne, es kann sein, dass ich ein paar Wörter nicht kenne oder nie groß ausgesprochen habe und nicht aussprechen kann. Wenn ich was falsch sage, dann ist das so, dann I'm sorry. Craft metal, rare element found naturally within the rock and bone of Falloon, used by skilled craft bugs in the construction of tools and trinkets. Spine core, flexible fiber from within a hoka's spine, can be woven into garments and accessoires by a skilled seamstress. Crown fragment, large spike of bone collected from a defeated skull tyrant. Horn fragment, hardened chunk of horned shell collected from a defeated savage beastfly. Fuck you, beastfly. Silver bell, finely forged bell made from a gleaming metal. Pale oil, bile gland of a rare Sylphian slug. Talented pinmasters can use the glistening liquid within to improve a blade's sharpness. Polyp heart, core of a flower formed around the body of a consumed wood wasp. Secrets are thicky sap that the wasp subsists on. Rag pelt, tattered pelt taken from the body of a crawbug. Fragile and drab, it is considered to have few practical uses. Plasmified blood, blood of a creature merged, full with liquid life seed, possesses powerful regenerative qualities. Regenerative qualities. Plasmium, liquid life seed, possessed of remarkable regenerative qualities, a substances foreign to Falloon. Introduced by the alchemist Xylotl. Lass mich noch einmal dieses Wort regenerative sagen und ich krieg einen Halsanfall. Roach guts, fresh innards of a muck roach. Dough and slimy with a rank odor, unpalatable to most. Career's swag. Heavy glove sack containing tools, trinkets and medical aids. Queen's egg. Fragile egg containing a young silk eater queen. Though the queen cannot gather silk itself, with the time and care it could be raised to breed more silk eaters. Liquid liqueur, pale glaze used to the preparation and protection of bone masks. Crust nut, though furred seed from the center of a corpora cluster, stale to taste but strong once ground as seasoning. Pickled Maggot. Maggot? I don't know. Pungent delicacy, preserved in roach brine, the most famous creation of the disgraced chef Lugoli. Vintage nectar, high-quality nectar of a long-lived aphid, kept in storage over many lifetimes to allow a complex maturation. Korea's rasher, fatty meat of indeterminate origin. Once prepared, it will quickly spoil if not stored properly. Steel spines, hard-forged spines intended for use in heavy machinery and able to pierce through even the toughest shell. Chalk cloak, garment gifted to pilgrims on admittance to the citadel. Its thick weave offers additional protection against wind and cold. Magnetite, brittle levitating rock found through the fringes of a loom. Brood mother's eye, gelatinous organ collected from the defeated brood mother. Voltridian, hard charged stone that can catch, store, and discharge electricity. Skewered organ, meat harvested from a defeated creature. It has been cleanly speared through, but is otherwise intact. Shredded organ, meat harvested from a defeated creature. It has been diced into fine chunks. Seared organ, meat harvested from a defeated creature. It has been seared in a way that noticeably affects the flavor. Hermit's soul, heavy bell filled with the shimmering soul of the bell hermit. Maiden's soul, vial gifted by the Capel maid, filled full with swirling soul. Seeker's soul, cracked shell containing soul drawn from a long deceased buck. Pollen heart and lift heart of Nulef, it beats faint and fast. Conjoined heart and livened heart of the Green Prince, it beats is sharp and clear. Encrusted heart and livened heart of Crust King, Khan, it beats deep and slow. Hunter's heart and lift heart of Scarsinger, Carmelita, its beat is steady and strong. Relics. Bone scroll, signed parchment containing a pilgrim scroll. My dear companions, all are gone now, devoured, scorched, fallen to exhaustion or worse, seduced by the haunting. Faded parchment containing the last words of a pilgrim. I die here in the damp dark, then join those poor sods, trapped to stumble aimless and empty until their limbs fall to dust. Filthy rag marked with the scrawl of an underworker. So much suffering. Are we truly chosen, or have we sinned unknowing and now are punished for it? Crumbled parchment containing the prayer of a burning buck. Hail to your heart, heat! Oh, glorious flame! You who build and break us! See your shells, shout them back, that we may rise to join you, reft in bright and blazing joy. Weaver effigy, carving of Camorra. Weaver of healing, a prayer is etched upon it. Weaver, heal my sons, their fearful hearts, their limbs that shake at the climb to come. We pray, gift but a glimmer of your strength, that when we stand before your divinity, you see bugs shed free of fear. Carving of Kila. Lal. Weaver of the path, a prayer is etched upon it. Blessed Weaver, Lady of Grace, you who see our sin, our fragile shells, our voices weak, and still offer our protection. How great your mind to care so much for one so lowly. Carving of Atla, Weaver of Time, a prayer is etched upon it. By grace of our example, and our history held full in mind, our song is yours, as your name is sacred. Weaver Atla, may you be praised eternal. Choral commandment, decree of the citadel, dirty and worn, full chamber to the kingdom of the white worm. Claim the weaver in half part, last of the line, sent strong with silk, resistance anticipated, quell with rune rage cage. Surgeon's orders, the vow has succumbed during silk suture, refuses to revive sin committed, permit no rites, husk marked for cremation, retrieve dregs. Last edict of the conductors, and lo is eternally sustained. By architect's claw we welcome that final form of dial and rotor, and so gladly given the perfect, unfaltering voice. Tattered decree of the citadel, bug and voice, grown hoarse, or shell-fawn frail, you have been selected for duty most sacred. Become a light or guide in darkness, that others worthily may climb to join the holy song. Rune harp, words of a weaver from the nest beneath bone bottom. Eyed her deep, the despised child, or shame shown in shell of iron. She's a wish cast vain, divinity mimicked in form too frail. Plea of a reaver from the furthest edge of the loom. Flee, sisters, flee until your strength exhausts, so far you may escape, at last her silken sight. To start anew, to sustain free of web and service eternal. Lost words of the weavers, sisters, spiders, the burdens is past. These simple bugs shall bear it full, never to cease, never to silence. We shall die and wait and pray that one may come of silken strength, enough to weave us free. Arcane egg, an artifact almost impossibly old, marked inside with many fine etchings. Most are indecipherable. No will, no self, shade. Cylinders. Psalm cylinder, voices of the core, raised in sacred song. Psalm cylinder, last surgery of conductor Mizello, performed in a whitewash operating theater. Guide track for the chore with a theme of ascendance. Guide track for the chore with a theme of salvation. sermon of service delivered by an ordained vault-keeper to acolytes in training. Oh, ich bin gerade aufgestanden, richtig mit dem richtig mit dem Schienbein gegen Tischecke geknallt, das tut so weh. Sacred melody of the Wall Keepers, coveted and claimed with the pontiff below the whispering walls. Mementos. Sprintmaster Memento. Guided trophy awarded by Sprintmaster Swift to the fastest buck in Falloon. Guardian's Memento. Age Medallion of the Wanderer's F. A gift given in respect of great skill. Hero's Memento. Heirloom of a village lost to Falloom's haunting. Hunter's Memento. Seal symbol given in recognition of a true hunter, stormed in sticky goo. Conjoined heart, enlivened heart of the Green Prince, it beats as sharp and clear. Craw Memento, iron emblem of the Court of Cross, absolving the bearer of all crimes past and future. Surface Memento, worn ornament of the nameless stone high above Falloon. Grey Memento, engraved crust stone worn by sand and blanched by time. Watch, remember, till time alive anew. Das wären schon mal alle Sachen, die wir uns hier anschauen können. Sehr schön. Dann würde ich sagen, es ist Zeit, dass wir uns den Rest durchlesen. Pale Steel Needle, long swing tool, uniquely balanced for combat. The hive steel blade has been sharpened to its ultimate form. Ancient mask, an ancient mask carved from cold, pale ore. The mask protects the wearer, guarding their shell against damage. Silk spool, artifact left behind by the weavers, designed to collect and hold additional silk. Silk thread naturally produced within the shell. When enough silk is stored, wounds can be healed and silk executed. Silk hearts will automatically regenerate some silk. Attack enemies to replenish silk. E to bind. Silk hearts 3 out of 3. Needolin. Holy Weaver talent. Play ancient melodies by stringing silk along the needle. Cling grip. Ancient Weaver technique. Cling to sheer surfaces and leap off to rapidly scale heights. Silk saw, ancient weaver talent, throw the needle upward and lunge to tremendous heights. Silksong, a sense of a being merged within. Silk will be restored when resting at bench. Clawline, advanced weaver talent, throw the silk-strung needle like a harpoon and charge towards it. Swift step, fabled weaver talent, dash towards the sprint with unnatural speed, as though gliding upon silk. Rosaries, bats carved from various materials used as a measure of okay, das kennen wir schon. Shell shards, kennen wir auch schon. Fade down cloak, Protective garb lined with the soft down of a fawn, and sewn through with flexible spines. Tool pouch and crafting kit, a pouch for holding traps and tools, and fine crafting implements to increase their lethality. Map and quill, map of a loom and a quill for recording one's travels. When resting at a bench or elsewhere, the map will be updated with newly discovered areas. By the way, du kannst bei Trobio oben die Feder nehmen, wenn du die nicht kaufst. Und dann siehst du die hier sogar. Everbloom, eternal flower plucked from a deep and distant memory, glows with soft pale light that wards against the void. Plasmium gland, pulsating organ, grown with, oh Gott, ich höre den Sound, within the shell of alchemist xylitol. The gland replenishes over time, providing a near limitless source of plasmium. Crafting new plasmium files no longer require a reserve. Okay. Slab keys, keys to the cells and passages of the slab. Key of indolent, key of heretic, key of apostate. Pale rosary necklace, heavy necklace, laden with pearl rosaries, can be broken and the rosary used to trade. Contains 340 rosaries. Shard bundle, small bundle of shells shards tied together with string. Can be broken to use the shards for crafting. Contains 80 shell shards. Beast shard, chunk of hardened material found in the shells of great beasts. Can be broken into individual shell shards for use in crafting. Breaks into 140 shell shards. Pristine core, intricate internal mechanism of a cogwork bug. Can be broken into individual shell shards for use in crafting. Breaks into 220 shell shards. Hornet statue, small sculpture, inexpertly but painstakingly crafted as a symbol of enduring friendship, breaks into 60 shell shards. Silk eater, grub that lives within and feeds upon Falloom's lingering silk, born with the ability to send silk over great distances. Consume the silk eater to retrieve a cocoon after failing in battle. Ja, oder falling oder nicht? Falling in battle. So. Oh Gott, ist das denn hier? Hunter, stalk prey and attack with lethal strikes. Build focus with successive strikes. Reaper, attack with heavy arcing slashes and reap additional silk from enemies. Wanderer, cut swiftly and nimbly with short, precise strikes. Beast, dear foes with savage slashes, bind to enter a wild fury and steal life from prey. Witch, whip the needle in sweeping swings, leech the life of foes through twisted roots. Architect, spin the needle of a screw, shredding foes. Spend silk to rapidly craft new tools. Shaman, cast the blade forward and strengthen silk skills with powerful runes. Silkspear, deadly weaver technique, throw the needle forward with force amplified by cold silk. Threadstorm, deadly weaver technique, cast the needle in a while of silk around oneself, lashing foes. Cross stitch, deflective technique of a creature spun from thread, bind silk around the needle to deflect enemy attacks and instantly strike back. Sharp darts, nee, warte mal. Nee. Sharp dart, deadly weaver technique, pierce through enemies in a blur of blade and silk. Rune rage, forgotten weaver technique, surrendering runes upon one's enemies. Pale nails, technique taken from the primal source of silk, spin talons from thread and seek out enemies. Straight pin, light throwing tool designed for rapid attacks. Threefold pin, flat layered weapon crafted to be thrown in a set. Sting shot, lethal trap formed of tightly bound blades. Once placed, the trap will pierce enemies that come into contact. Text. Short pins designed to be scattered along the ground. The sharp points will pierce any enemy who steps upon them. Long pin, weight pin and halved, formed to pierce through shells. Curve cycle. Radial sharp bone used by skilled hunters to take down dangerous prey. Conch cutter, spiral weapon fashioned from a hardened conch spire. Thrown at an angle, it can ricochet and catch prey off guard. Pimpillo, fabric pouch filled with volatile material, explodes on impact with enemies or when ignited by its fuse. Throwing ring, hardened throwing weapon of the warrior chakra. Blunt force weapon that rebounds between enemies and hard surfaces. Silkshot, Version, keine Ahnung wie die hieß, Nailsmith, Frau da. Es gibt ja 3 Versionen. Ancient weapon of the Weaver, repaired and modified by Forge Daughter hieß sie. Use a shell canistered and the wielder's own silk to fire. Die silberne Version bekommt man bei Mount Fay irgendwo an der Crafting Bench. Und bei der Architektin bekommt man dann die rote. Delver's Drill, rotary tool used for boring into bone and rock. Drives the wielder downwards while spinning the drill with destructive force. Cogwork wheel, expanding circular blade powered by a cogwork motor, propels forward, slicing through foes. Cogfly, wing cogwork companion that will seek nearby foes and attack. Rosary cannon, repurposed mechanism from the base of a rosary stringing machine. Rosaries must be inserted to reload the cannon. Volt vessels, convertible orbs containing electricity. The vessel can be thrown as a bowler for an explosive discharge or staked as a spear to release a column of energy. Plasmium file, spear file containing plasmium. Injecting the liquid allows one to gain health beyond the natural limits. Flea brew, invigorating beverage, beverage prepared by the flea caravan, temporarily increases the speed of movement and attacks. Flint slate, sharpening slate made from cut and polished flint gem, temporarily superheats the needle's blades, imbuing each slash with flame and increasing lethality. Druid's Eyes, powerful amulet of protection, formed from many moss berries. As the bearer takes damage, the amulet weaves a green elixir that will form into silk. Magma Bell, forged iron bell crafted to warp against the intense heat of the deep docks, reduces the damage taken from flame and magma. Warding Bell, holy bell inscribed with a hymn of the protection, shields the bearer as they bind their wounds. Multi-binder, elaborate edged weaver spindle, usable only by wielders of silk, extends the act of binding but increases its healing effect. Fractured mask, old bug's skull, carved for protection, shields against critical damage but shatters on impact. If shattered, the mask will be repaired while resting at a bench. Polyp pouch, pouch containing a fast-acting venom drawn from a flower's heart, applies the venom to equipped tools. Weave light, gleaming apparatus of weaver make. Its core emits a faint glow, increases the speed of silk regeneration. Sawtooth circlet, flexible belt of serrated metal teeth, able to affix to the hem of a cloak. Flaring, the cloak will spin the blades, damaging surrounding enemies. Injector band, brace of surgical spins from the white wart used to forcefully insert silk deep inside a bug's shell, increases the speed of binding. Claw mirrors, twin vertical tools of a vainglorious bug. When binding, emits a searing blast that damages surrounding enemies. Trobio! Reserve bind, honored artifacts of the Citadel, able to hold a bind's worth of silk, used when healing is needed and one's natural resources run low. The reserve bind will be restored when resting at a bench. Spool extender, silk storing tool of the Citadel, fashioned over an artifact of the weavers, allows the storing of additional silk beyond one's natural abilities. Memory crystal, reflective stone with mnemonic properties. When taking damage, a memory of the bearer is formed of crystal. The memory will shatter into sharp spines if an enemy comes into contact. Snitch pick, hooked tool for the forceful retrieval of loot from bugs and husks. Harpoon into foes to steal rosaries and shell shards, while causing additional damage. Vault filament, charged organ from a defeated vault worm, can be coiled around thread, imbuing silk skills with electric charge. Longclaw, talisman, fashioned from the talon of a large predator, increases the range of needle attacks. Wreath of Purity, fragile band woven of reed and leaf, crafted to repel muck maggots. If broken, the wretch will be repaired while resting at a bench. Quicksling, taunt drawing mechanism, built from reed and bone, intended for mounting on the limb of a bug, doubles the number of tools thrown. Whisper Fire Lantern, broken into lantern containing smoldering wisp fire. Wisp will spawn from the lantern and burn foes at the cost of silk. Egg of Flelia, icon of the mythical mother flea, passed down from caravans of old, a symbol of protection and kindship. Decreases the cost of silk skills while health is full. Pin badge, emblem of the Order of the Pinterest, the old blade masters of Falloom, reduces charge time of needle strike. Magnetite brooch, holy stone described with a prayer for rosaries. Any loose beads will be pulled towards the wearer. Shard pendant, crude trinket worn by collectors and crafters, allows one to collect more shell shards from defeated creatures. Auf die Uhr gucken, okay. Oh, ich glaube, ich schaffe das zeitlich gar nicht. Intricate tracking device carved from shell. When equipped, the bearer's location will be marked on the map. Weighted bell, heavy band favored by those with an unsteady step. The wearer will recoil less when striking foes and will not be flung as far when taking damage. Barbed bracelet, vicious bracelet worn by those who believe they have not been duly punished, increases damage taken but also increases damage dealt by the needle. Deadbug's purse, discarded purse of a fallen pilgrim, allows the bearer to retain some rosaries upon defeat. Magnetite dice, playthings carved from magnetic material, used in simple games and believed to bring luck to the bearer. Scuttle brace, artificial spine that clasps tight around the shell, enhances the wearer's innate flexibility, allowing rapid retreat. Ascendant's grip, guided piton that allows one to hold in place while on a wall. Thief's mark, symbol worn to identify oneself to fellow thieves, gain extra rosaries from defeating enemies but lose some rosaries on taking damage. Silk speed anklets, experimental anklets of weaver make, draws upon the wearer's own silk to increase sprinting speed. Spider strings, sophisticated weaver device, resonates with music played to amplify and enhance a performance. Expands and strengthens the effects of the Nidollen. Puh. Ah, hier steht echt nichts. Okay. Überrascht mich. Ja, wenn da nichts steht. Als nächstes Descent, Last Dive. Dive into the Void and cut volume free. Completed. So, dann gehen wir jetzt nochmal in die anderen Completeden. Seek the Great Citadel. Ascend through the lands of Falloom and reach the Citadel at the Kingdom's peak. Save the thread-spun town. Break the silken curse ensnaring the town of Belhart. Search silent halls. Venture inside the Citadel and confront the veiled bugs. Open Grand Gate. Awaken the old bells throughout the lands. The Morrow, Farfields, Greymore, Belhart, Shellwood. Silent halls. Venture inside the Citadel and confront the veiled bugs. Architect's melody. The architect's melody has been learned. Conductor's melody. The conductor's melody has been learned. Vaultkeeper's melody. The vaultkeeper's melody has been learned. Falloom's crown. Rise above the Citadel and confront the one who haunts the lands of Falloom. After the fall, discover the fate of Falloom. Soul Snare. Scale the Citadel and ensnare its monarch in a deadly trap. awaiting the end. Confront the character and his family in the ruined chapel beside Bone Bottom. Beast in the bells, descend into the bellway and defeat the hostile creature within. Return to Falum, escape the abyss. The dark below, reach the source of the black threads within the abyss. Spellseeker, return to the Snail Shamans in the ruined chapel beside Bone Bottom. The old hearts enlivened and acquire the old hearts of Falum. Heart of the woods, the pollen heart has been claimed from Nilith. Heart of might, the encrusted heart has been claimed from Cross King Khan. Heart of the white, the hunter's heart has been claimed from Scarsinger Carmelita. Bone Bottom repairs, donate shell shards to aid repairs around Bone Bottom. An icon of hope, donate shell shards to aid the construction of an icon of hope. A life-saving bridge, donate shell shards to aid the building of a bridge. Garb and the pilgrims, haunted pilgrims of Falum and collect pilgrim shawls from their bodies. Berry picking, collect mossberries from the moss-covered areas of Falum's lowlands. Volatile flint beetles, track down flint beetles in the Morrow and defeat them to collect flint gems. Flint beetles can be tracked by their stone shedding and their aromatic dung. The lost fleas. Seek fleas across the land of Falum and guide them to the flea caravan. The terrible tyrant, hunt the skull tyrant of the Morrow. Flexile spines, hunt hokas in the forefields and collect spine cores. Restoration of Belhard, donate rosaries to aid the rebuilding of Belhard. Bugs of Falum, defeat the many creatures of Falum and fill out the Hunter's Journal. Belhard's Glory, donate rosaries to complete the rebuilding of Belhard. Pinmaster's Oil, retrieve pale oil from the Citadel. My missing career, search for traces of the career, tip and track his location. Tip was last seen in Lower Shellwood, da fehlt das Doppelpunkt. Silver bells, collect silver bells in the bell vein, tunnels above and below Belhard. My missing brother, search for traces of the career Pill and track his location. Pill was last seen in Lower Greymore. Bone Bottom supplies, deliver supplies to the Fixer Flick in Bone Bottom. Fleetopia supplies, deliver supplies to the Fleamaster Moshka in Fleetopia. Songclave supplies, deliver supplies to the Caretaker in Songclave. Liquid liqueur, deliver liquid liqueur to the Mask Maker upon Mount Fay. Queen's Egg, deliver the Queen's Egg of Styx of Sinner's Road. Savage Beastfly, track down the Savage Beastfly in the forefields and defeat it. The Beastfly can be tracked by its shell sheddings and claw marks. Crawbug Clearing, hunt crawbugs in Greymore and collect their egg pelt. Rite of the Polyp, collect polyp hearts from the purple flowers of Shellwood. Rite of Rebirth, bind the twisted bud. Alchemist Assistant, collect plasmium from plasmium buds in the lower warmways. Plasmium can be extracted from bugs using a fully charged stab from the needle file tool. Infestation Operation, acquire steel spines from Kral and Benjamin in the Benjamin in Sinner's Road so Jarnaby can remove the parasite. Advanced Alchemy, collect plasmified blood from infected creatures in the warmways. Plasmified blood can be extracted with a fully charged stab from the needle file tool. Roach Guts, hunt the muck roaches of Sinner's Road and collect roach guts from their bodies. Strengthening Songclave, donate rosaries to aid the Songclave's residents. Building up Songclave, donate rosaries to aid the growing of Songclave. Find pins, hunt pin-wielding chorebugs of the Citadel and collect fine pins. The Wandering Merchant, search for traces of the merchant Jubilana and track her location. Jubilana was last seen in the lower coral chambers. Cloak of the Chore, hunt cloaked chorebugs of the Citadel and collect chore cloaks from their bodies. The Lost Merchant, search for traces of the merchant Jubilana and track her location. Jubilana was last seen near the Citadel's memoriam. The Wailing Mother, track down the wailing creature in the slab and slay it. The creature can be traced by its slime trail. Great Taste of Falum, collect rare delicacies of Falloom, mossberry stew, vintage nectar, Korea's rasher, crust nut, pickled maggots. Final audience, track the second sentinel by the markers left near Songclave. Balm for the wounded, search the traces of the pilgrim, Sherma, and track his location. Sherma was traveling to the Citadel's White Ward. Broodfest, use tools to acquire organs of various types so huntress may feed her brood. Seared organ, shredded organ, skewered organ. Silk and Soul, acquire the necessary components to build a powerful trap. Maiden Soul, Hermit Soul, Seeker Soul, Snare Setter. Fatal Resolve, find Pinstress on the Stormward side of Mount Fay and defeat her in battle. Hero's Call, seek out the distress bug near the Blasted Steps Bellway. Sprint, fastest in Falloom, race Sprint Master, swift to discover Falloom's fastest bug. Pain, anguish, and misery, return to the Citadel stage beside the Whispering Worlds. Trabio! The Hidden Hunter, track the one who stole Gilly's keepsake near the Bell Shrine between Deep Docks and Farfields. Passing of the Age, under Capel fall to the Monarch's might. Over camp collapsed to the Black Thread plight. Scorched field on edge, shells black and burnt. Up tower spinning near the surgeon's burned. Cage of one who rage against the silken lie. Fell heart of frost who soars so high. Past cradle's peak, last test of fitness. That the age may pass, this shroom its witness. Dark Hearts, destroy void masses throughout Falloom. Oh boy! Puh. Die Karte wird noch einmal vollständig gezeigt. Ja. Warum ist das schwarz? Passt schon, ist eh unwichtig. Ach ja. Boah, dass ich das als erkundet habe, ist krass, ey. War aber auch eine Arbeit, muss ich sagen. Wir haben viel erreicht. Oh boy. Zeit fürs letzte. 235 Einträge. Gib mir mal bitte einen Moment, ich muss kurz aufs Klo. Wollte ich mich was essen. Habe ich unentschieden, wir machen erstmal das hier. Rosary String. Short string of rosaries can be broken in rosaries used to trade. Rosary Necklace. Adornment strung with a large quantity of rosaries can be broken and the rosaries used to trade contains 120 rosaries. Heavy Rosary Necklace. Heavy threaded with a mix of common and thin rosaries can be broken and the rosaries used to trade contain 220. Growstone, das ist Steel Sword only. Cold, steely stone with remarkable regrowth capacity. If shattered into shell shards, it will reform over time. Hunter's Cloak. Simple protective grab, expertly woven but showing signs of age. Cogwork Heart. Reassemble Cogwork Heart, containing a fine array of wheels and regulators. Cogheart Piece. One part of a Cogwork Heart, containing an intricate mechanism of wheels and regulators. Ich bin gerade so... Ich muss eigentlich was essen gehen. Simple Key. Rusted key of common design can be used to open a range of simple locks. Degraded by time, it will break after a single use. Diving Bell Key. Small worker's key unlocks the door to the diving bell in Deep Docks. Gate Key. Small worker's key unlocks the gate in the middle of Deep Docks. White Key. Finally crafted metal key shaped to resemble a surgical implement. Grants access to the Citadel's White Ward. Surgeon's Key. Discarded key of the White Ward opens the sluice beneath the operating theater. Architect's Key. Rotary key of the Architects opens the Capel in the Underworks. Bellhome Key. Key to a restored bell above Bellheart. Needle, long swinging tool. Uniquely balanced for combat, the blade is marked by time and use. cross summons, scrawled missive on tattered black rag, defiler, dark tent, home wheel. Rag pelt, tattered pelt taken from the body of a crawbug, fragile and drab, it is considered to have few practical uses. Ich war mir bei denen hier, die jetzt kommen, nicht sicher, ob ich die vorgelesen hatte. Twisted butt, contorted mass of ashen wine, cries out incessantly. Polyp heart, core of a flower formed around the body of a consumed wood wasp, secretly a sticky stab that wasps subsist on. Ich glaube, das habe ich schon vorgelesen, aber ich mache es trotzdem nochmal. Coral shard, chunk of dense coral shell, not fit for crafting tools, but claimed to have various medicinal properties if correctly prepared. Fine pin, common weapon of a loom, still in good condition, despite long use, an expertly crafted metal rod with a sharpened tip. Shining cock, pristine cock from within the shell of an automation, despite long use, its metal has not dulled. Crust spire, head hornpiece broken from the tip of a conchfly's shell. Grass doll, carved child's toy of a bug clad in leaves. Memory locket, keepsake containing a precious memory, can be used to expand a crest, expand crests in the crest pane of the menu. Crawbell, nest fashioned from an old bell, once set up, young craws will occasionally roast within, filling the bell with shell and shards and rosaries. The crawbell can be installed on the exterior of a home. Farsight, retracted weaver surveillance instrument. Once assembled, the device will allow observation over vast distances. The farsight can be assembled in a home. Desk, a cosmetic item that allows Honor to sit and view all collected relics, psalm cylinders, and other items, especially when combined with the materium. Gleam lights, a charming string of lights that hangs at the top of the house, adding a warm glow to the interior. Belle Lacroix allows you to apply a new coat of paint to your bell home's exterior. The change takes effect after you leave the area and return. Personal spa, the most expensive and useful upgrade. Resting in the spa fully restores haunted HP and silk, acting as a superior version of a bench. Solange man nicht Eva oder wie sie hieß hatte, ja. Gramophone, a device used to play melodies. Obtained, it becomes available after giving all psalm cylinders to Vaultkeeper Cardinius. Frayed rosary ring, one string holding a meager amount of rosaries can be broken, and the loose rosaries used to trade contains 30 rosaries. Sealseeker Sill. Ja, das ist der Charakter, der Steel only ist. Hope, pale it for a vessel who defies the masters. You give thee a thought complex. Das ist ihr Text, I guess. The Moors give them, take Skinks. Skinks, Sinner's Road, das ist auch Seasword only. Nee, wait. Skinks? Nee, achso, ich habe mit was anderem verwechselt. Alles gut. Shell Statue bekommt man in Sealsword anstatt von dem Item, das macht, dass du weniger Geld verlierst, wenn du stirbst, weil du hier ja nicht sterben darfst. Das macht, ja, das ist alles. Quick access contained formed from an old shell. Increase the quantity of crafted tools. Ja, und stattdessen gibt es dir quasi mehr Tool, die du werfen kannst. Seasword Mode. Achso, ja, hier habe ich die Sachen rausgesucht. Dann, das kommt später. Das ignorieren wir erstmal. Jetzt gehe ich was essen. So, ich würde sagen, wir beginnen sogar mit diesen Einträgen, damit ich hier nicht nochmal hin muss. Was habe ich verpasst? Was werden wir bei mir nicht sehen? Garmond und Sasa. Vijoros, old knight, and their noble companion working together to see their lands cut free from the haunted madness. They seek to spectre at the haunting heart, though I fear that foe would pose a challenge beyond their mortal limits. Das ignorieren wir mal schön. Ich werde ganz halt angefragt, ob ich spielen komme. Und ihr könnt nicht ganz genau denken, was ich geantwortet habe. Zumindest anhand von seiner Aussage. Summoned Savior. Mass of old masks swollen and animated by writing void. A creature born of a bug's desperate hope for strength. Few possesses the skill to call the void, and of those that can, none possesses the means to tame it. Ja. Ach ja, kann ich aber mal zeigen. Das ignorieren wir mal schön. Weil ich das wahrscheinlich noch alles neu verschieben muss. Und wir kommen jetzt zum letzten Teil. Und zwar alle Einträge. Sorry, ich werde auf WhatsApp jetzt angekackt, weil ich geschrieben habe. Okay. Verständnis erwarte ich nicht, aber ich lese trotzdem alles durch. Ich lese jetzt alles mit einer Stimme durch, weil wenn ich jetzt immer switch, dann bei 235, ne, ich sterbe mental, psychisch und physisch dann halt auch. Mossgrub, fur-covered crawler, with a series of sharp spikes along its back. If not for the spikes, I would think it an appealing bug. Ich habe schon mitbekommen, dass Hornet sehr krass auf die Fluffigen geiert. Und dem muss ich sagen, bin ich auf ihrer Seite. Und ich habe auch mitbekommen, sie soll die Fliegen hassen, bin ich auch vollkommen auf ihrer Seite. Massive moss grub, a naturally overgrown moss grub, bred within the Citadel's memoriam. So close to a perfect furred form, if only they'd been able to breed out the spines. Mossmere, small fluttering creature capable of defending itself with its small stinger. This bug is soft and clumsy, but to its fortune, its home caves seem relatively free of effective predators. I wonder why that is. Mossmother, adult mossmere with a fully developed stinger and hardened hide. Motherhood is an instinct that can push creatures beyond what seem their natural limits. It turns even weaker beasts like these into formidable foes. Agnet, winged insect that feeds upon moss and lichen in the caves above Bone Bottom. In its natural state, it would avoid potential predators, but Falloom's haunting now compels to its aggression. Fortunate, its jaws are ill-suited for combat. Skull Scuttler, small soft bug that uses the hard skulls of the morrow for protection in disguise. In every land, creatures find new and surprising ways to disguise themselves. One must be wary always. Skull Tyrant, rare enormous skull scudder. The morrow's largest predator, and the most feared for its ferocious temperament. Though surely fears the skull, it bears looks taken from an even larger beast. If not for the bones as a proof, I would scarcely believe bugs could grow to such scale. Skullbrute, soft bug beneath a huge horned skull, charges an intruder to protect its territory and its smaller companions. Either its size has made it fearless, or the haunting has removed its sense of self-preservation. Skullwing, airborne relative of the grounded skull scuttler, found any in the morrow's deepest, hottest caves. Such feeble creatures could only survive thanks to the rarity of predators in these superheated caverns. Boah, ich hab was am Hals. Hillick, small bony bug that favors dark tunnels, can expand its spike carapace to wards against attacking predators. I am fond of simple, effective traps such as this bug's extendable spikes. An unwary predator would be skewered clean through. Beastfly, aggressive fly of Falloom's lowlands, rams prey with its hard-bone mask. Dancing around this simple creature as it charges back and forth is the sort of game I delighted in as a child. Alas, and I now have more pressing matters to attend to. Savage Beastfly, angered adult beastfly with a weighty body and a thickened hardshell mask. Civilization encroaches from this kingdom's crown, but the lowlands are still ruled by great beasts. Its roar stirs something deep within me, some primal instinct. Hardbone hopper, grazing creature with sharp sense that nimbly retreats from danger. Despite the haunting of its shell, it has not been overcome with aggression. Its desire to flee remains too strong. Vicious carnate, aggressive winged bug of the lowlands. When angered, it rapidly whips its tail as a weapon. Its wings are quite small compared to its bulk. Perhaps it uses the warm air of these fairylands to help stay airborne. Clever if so. Coronet, common winged bug of the lowlands, generally docile, but will attack if threats come close. Their plump, round-shaped masks them well suited for target practice. Difficult to resist testing my aim on them. Hardbone elder, tall creature with sharp senses, defends its herd with powerful legs and sharp-tipped masks. There's surprising strength hidden in their thin, elegant limbs. It would be a pleasure to ride upon it. Termite, flying bone mite that lives near magma, roasts its prey by spitting scorching tar. Its sticky split would no doubt make useful crafting material if molded flesh fresh. Unfortunately, I cannot stop to experiment. Okay. Mauling, young bony bug that can curl its body to form a ball. Their rough, rich shell grips tied to any surface, even walls and roofs become pathways for these nimble bugs. Flint beetle, rarely seen beetle that spends most of its life nestled deep in bone and rock. The flint gems on its shell excrete an explosive powder. Its bright gems could be used to make beautiful but short-lived jewelry. An amusing idea for a gift or a trap. Hoka, spine-shooting drifter of the lowlands. Whatever admiration I had for its fleecy down is spoiled by its disturbing mask and its steely spines. Marrowmaw, giant roller of the lowlands, its rich hide will crush smaller creatures beneath it. Sheer bulk makes for an effective weapon, but requires much substances this creature would have spent most of its time eating, an acceptable life for some. Ringground, longhorned beast of Falloom's lowlands, relies on its horn both to impale and to wrench the ground beneath it, flinging dangerous debris. Certain tools and skills can pierce its defenses. I should adjust my strategy as needed. Groomling, young masked worm that delights in ambushing intruders within its tunnels. A frustrating fiend, they flee beneath the bone whenever I try to strike them down. Grom, burrowing worm that uses its many blunted teeth to dig through even the hardest bone. They ceaselessly churn through rock and bone without ever seeming to rest. Do they have a destination, or are they compelled to dig forever deeper? Pilgrim Pouncer, agile bug of Falloom. Its higher functions have been lost to the haunting. With a softer shell than most, they would have relied on their athleticism to survive. Pilgrim Croveler, basic bug of Falloom, laid low upon the ground. Taken by Falloom's haunting, the bug is now capable of little more than prayer and aggression. Bellbeast, huge hardbone bug that lives within and travels through the veins of old bells across Falloom. This one has allied themselves with me, either as thanks for their saving or respect for one judged as equal. Whichever the reason, their fellowship is welcome. Pilgrim Hornfly, short pilgrim that uses their long horn to launch upon threats. Birth equipped this one well. In its assault, it becomes its own projectile. Pilgrim Hulk, sturdy bug lost to the haunting, rolled at threats with no care for its own discomfort. A rare built bug within these allying lands. Most pilgrim shells seem small by comparison. What nourishment did they discover to grow so large? Pilgrim Bellbearer, common bug wielding a set of old bells. The bugs will fling the bells at anyone it deems still free. The bell would once have rung with hope and mirth, lifting the spirits of any climbing companions. Sadly, those instruments have turned purely to combative use. Winged Pilgrim, Bellbearer. Pilgrim endowed with large wings carrying a brace of iron bells. On uneven terrain, their uniform of flight and range can prove a challenge even for me. Elder Pilgrim, thick setback consumed by haunted threat, uses their solid frame to crush others. A lucky bug to be able to grow old. Falloom's roads take most... Oh mein Gott, wer klingelt da? Einen Moment bitte. Dass hier jemand stumm klingelt, ist wild. Die sind alle zu Hause. Das ist irgendwie random. A lucky bug to be able to grow old. Palum's roads take most much earlier. Winged pilgrim, short-horned bug, born with underdeveloped wings. Flight it possesses, but only just. It may lift from the stone, but those had wings would never carry it far. Pilgrim hiker, hard-shelled bug with a climber's pin. The pin, once ate, has become a weapon, though the bug is unrefined in its use. A bug once frail, pushed by twisted thread beyond its mortal limits. Pilgrim guide, old pilgrim carrying a heavy iron bell staff. The large bell seems to signify them as once leader of a climbing troop, though the haunting has erased that former authority. Overgrown pilgrim, aged pilgrim overgrown with liches and moss. The moss looks to grow even inside the stomach, which the pilgrim spits at foes. It compressed gobs, a foul form of offense. Covetous pilgrim, strong bug replete with rosaries. If angered, they will whip their strings in a caseless onslaught. In this abundance, a sign of purity or greed, the way faith is measured in this land is curious indeed. Snitchfly, pernicious looter found all over Falloom. While these bothersome bugs are left free to forage, no loose rosary or trinket is safe. Levelluck, sticky mollusk that defends itself by spraying burning fluid from growths on its back. What seems at first a purely defensive mechanism may also be necessary to rid this creature of excess heat. Flintstone Flyer, aerial worker lost to Falloom's haunting, bears a pouch full with flintstone, which they will fling at intruders. That incredibly material they carry is a natural wonder with many potential applications. What a waste to carelessly throw it at me whenever I pass by. Smell Shoveler, low-level worker lost to Falloom's haunting. Instinct keeps them at their task, though in much simpler fashion than before. This kingdom appears more advanced in metalwork than my own ever was, in great part due to the natural heat source at its base. Working in such an environment is an impressive feat. Lava Larger, fully grown mollusk able to unleash a gushing torrent of burning fluid from its back. To survive while storing so much searing fluid within, before I would have believed it impossible, but Falloom is home to many marvels. Flint Flame Flyer, brave worker carrying unstable flint flame and wearing a heavy belt to protect against potential ignition. Theirs would be a high-risk life followed by a short searing end. Smockerock Shifter. Sifter. Ah, scheiße. Symbol bearing, worker of the deep docks, pen of the halls of Sommerock to find traces of more precious minerals. The haunting has stolen some important part of these bugs, yet still they attempt their former task, until that is, they sense my presence. Deep diver, bell-clad bug responsible for mining the deeper, treacherous depths below the docks. Their heavy bells armor them well against my strikes, but against that oppressive heat, can they help at all? Cruggler, thick-plated scuttler that prefers high places, holds an extensive supply of searing acid in a layer sac within its shell. The acid rains from its mouth upon my creature it sees as food. Cracklite, infant form of the more formidable Crackler. If left to grown, these young bugs will fight for dominance until only one remains. Four brothers Cygnus and Gron, elder overseers of the deep docks responsible for the oversight and punishment of lesser workers. Lost in the madness of the haunting, they still commanded the endless excavation of the caves. Brushlift, tiny timid creature that huddle in flocks and flee at the first hint of danger. Furted, skittish scrambler of the farfields. Warte mal. Holds. Lost in Ich weiß nicht, ob ich die unteren Teil vorgelesen habe. Okay, ich glaube, hier habe ich aufgehört. Lost in the madness of the haunting, they still command the endless... Das habe ich vorgelesen. I left the young bucks... If left the ground, ja, das habe ich auch gelesen. Holds habe ich gelesen. Okay, okay, so gut. They call out to warn the fellows. A sense of threat, a successful hunt where means staying silent and hidden right up until the decisive strike. Skitchy scrambler of the far fields, it Atene resembles stalks of grass to aid in camouflage. It has no means to defend itself, it only hopes for survival, it to be mistaken for a plant. Flapping fatted, docile buck whose wings mimic the grasses of the far fields, a common snack for larger predators. When roasting, it would look convincingly plant-like. In flight, its bulbous body quickly ruins the use. Fourth chorus. Towering iron automation driven by rotor and cog. A terrifying achievement of a loom to build a construction so large and yet so nimble. Scarlet. Small burrowing ant. Servant to the larger scar. Kann man nicht eigentlich so die Kleinen mit Bomben töten vielleicht? Scarwing. Darting predator that clings fast to roofs and outcrops, often summoned to aid its larger companions. They would make effective hunting companions, though even without the haunting, I suspect their loyalty would always remain to their clan. Spear Scar, winged ant hunter that strikes from the air with its bone lance. In my youth, I envied all bugs with wings. I even fancied I might grow a pair. I have since learned better, accept the limitations of one's body, and argument with tools as needed. Scarstalker, skilled ant hunter, bearing blade and armor fashioned from bone, fierce, strong, and disciplined. Disciplined, yeah. Yet these qualities do not protect them from the haunting. In such a fate inevitable in these lands, Scar Scout, young ant hunter, wielding cycles carved from teeth, will often call for aid and danger comes closer. Scarguard, huge ant hunter, tasked to protect the stores and passages of its tribe. Theirs is the perfect shell for that duty, a wall of a warrior and an adept fighter. If I hope to claim their treasures, I must bring my best. Gur the outcast, huge yet stealthy Scar, an expert trapper and master of the undergrowth. His tracks and traps, it should have been obvious from the start this old hunter sought to draw me in, but what reason drove him to test himself so brutally? That answer I suspect I shall never know. Last Claw, elite former hunter acting as the final line of defense before their mother. Their skill once saw them chosen, and I can plainly see why. They would have lived and trained only for this duty. Scar Singer Carmelita, Song Queen of the Scar and their most talented warrior. This graceful ruler once possessed skill to rival my own. At her young, youthful peak, her voice united all Scar in her service. Ich muss was trinken. Und meine Wasserflasche ist leer. Sehr schön. Ich trinke später. Might. Verme's Pest. Common throughout the darker corners of Greymore. Individually, they offer little challenges, but their number are surely vast, and most remain hidden. Fluttermite. Airborne pest, less common than its grounded siblings, attacks with sharp fangs if agitated. Similar bugs would gnaw away at unguarded food supplies in my homeland. As a child, I would hunt them, eager to make use of myself and test my skills. Silk snippers, scissors wielding bug, charge to cut and spool fallen dredge of silk for return to the citadel above. Drag catcher, bug charge to catch drags with silk that fall from the citadel, will attack with its staff if provoked. These bugs look to have spent every walking moment at their work, grim endless labor in service of the unseen citadel above. Might Mother. Age female might grown larger and stronger than most of its kin. Was war das? Poor of sight, but possessing a keen sense of smell, it uses its bulk to charge at foreign scans. Remaining fierce so far into old age is an admirable trait. Rachum, ja. Tread raker, tall bug charged to pile silk drags in preparations for respooling. That sharp rake now doubles equally well as a stabbing weapon. There seem a sad, crueling task serving their lifetime for a citadel unseen. Mowing, winged might beast, bred large to catch workers who once tried to flee their task. With its wranglers long dead, the mowing stalked the towers of Greymore, feasting on passing pilgrims and tenders alike. Wisp, short-lived spirit, born of flickering flame, to live only a single bright moment, what would one feel? Is it glorious or only despair? Or could it be both mixed equal? Craw, scratching scavenger, that rose high in caverns and preys on passing pilgrims. By the swooping menace, a simple bug could be easily overcome, more dangerous still, they rarely attack alone. Father of the flame, totem and god, built and worshipped by the burning bugs. The remains of an aged bug were housed at the prior's heart. The structure suggests they wished for immolation. If so, I have seen their wish granted. Burning bug. Many-legged insect, financially obsessed with flame. These ones somehow learn to call and guide the scorching wisps that share their thicket. Whenever through dominance or reverence is unclear. Tall craw. Rag-winged adult crawbug bearing a scavenged pin. Far more hostile than their younger companions, but seemingly less likely to roam far from their nest. Mein Hals. Squat craw. Stout adult crawbug, hearing several shot pins. A cowardly sort, they will try to remain at range to throw their sharp weapons. Best to rush them down and cut quick. Craw Junior, screeching scavenger dyed black, in mourning at their land's collapse. Weak, afraid, and aware of the imminent end. I understand their desperation, but my death will not prevent the coming fall. Tailcraw Juror, elder crawbug serving in a sacred ceremony. Curiosity saw me answer the summons. But I shall not allow them to storm me long. I must work fast to fix my grand mistake. Squat craw Juror, short elder crawbug eagerly serving in their court. They seek to slay their only chance at survival. Alas, any words would fall unless useless. I have only made blade to offer response. Crawfather, Lord and Justice of Falloom's Cross, delivers death to condemned bugs with its steel-plated peak. Did he recognize my part played in this land's void-strung state? If so, perhaps his judgment was not unfair. To these bugs I have brought much destructions. Mug maggot, mindless infant larva, coated in thick slime, they cling fast to the shells of other bugs, destroying any hope for concentration or comfort. Slubber slug, young form of muckroach, attacks prey by leaping from the water and snapping with its flexible jaws. These creatures look to have been bred deliberately in water pens. If they are food to be, their skin suggests they must taste vile. Muckroach, starved pack bug with an insatiable appetite. Despite their tough hide and pungent meat, roaches breed rapidly, so are sometimes farmed for food. A revolving creature, my shell itches at their presence. In the pens, where their numbers grow fast, I am forever on edge. Bloat roach, a beast offshot of muckroaches, born of the citadel's exhaust smoke. The winged roach, sagging stomach filled with sizzling bile. Its form is absurd, surely. It should not be able to hold itself in the air. The noxious gases in its stomach must provide its levity. Roach catcher, short nimble bug who uses barbed bolars to keep beasts corralled and caged. Their throwing weapon is well suited to the wide caverns they inhabit. These sly little bugs must have a keen claw for crafting. Roach feeder, tall roach tender charged to feed. Mug roaches on a lean diet of maggot cruel. The feeders curled pin looks designed to keep ravenous roaches at bay, and the tender from turning into the meal. Roachkeeper, grizzled older roach, tender weighted with a lasso of heavy chain. Though their mindset is largely lost, their skill with a chain has not been forgotten. Does the haunting eternally bind a bug to the task it had in life? Roach server, British cook responsible for dicing muck roaches meat into edible portions. Could their actions be called skill? I see only a crude mangling of meat, yet I wonder before the haunting snared their minds, was it any different? Disgraced Chef Lugerly, once exalted chef, exiled from the citadel for repeatedly culinary crimes, returned to their home caves. The chef continued to diverse the delicacies too repulsive for any bug still sane. Wrath, anguished spectre of a lingering threat. Despite its ephemeral nature, strong strikes can dispel the wraith for a time. Not a bug, but a projection of another's will cast in smog and silk. Moth leaf lichenia. A rare calmer bug of Bywater survives its hazardous surroundings by hiding as a plant. This one is pretty, but not as soft as first it seems. The plant it mimics is flaked and coarse, and the bug cord shares similar texture. Myrmide, crawling insect with a sizzling bile sac in its abdomen. The threat of its exploding rear is an effective deterrent to predators, but the slightest jolt of fall can cause its premature end. Swarm squid, plentiful pest with a sharp proboscis and belly full of bile, more dangerous in the movement of its explosive and coral death than it ever was in life. Spit squid, hovering pest with a hollowed proboscis, able to spit gobs of sizzling bile, to subsist on the sickly water. In this fetid environment, it spits out the most toxic elements. Over generations, this former survival technique has turned into an effective hunting tool. Stilken, cunning bug that hunts with darts fashioned from steak and bile. They know well the domain lurking in wait in its spyways, and bogs always ready to pounce. Barnack, toothy grown that lives on cave roofs, wrap wayward bugs with its long tongue and drags them up to be consumed, hiding its tongue amongst fonts so similar. There is impressive style to this one's trickery. Ich mag diese Dinger. Silking Trapper, trap-setting bug carrying a punch of sharpened long stakes. More bother than the bug themselves are countless traps they have already laid through the caves. Grow the Great, sheaf and complain of the Stilken forever raging against the citadel that choked their caves, and sees them suffer. This one's length was much enhanced by stolen soul. They are not the first who try to hoard it or to mold it towards such violent ends. Ducksucker, suction creatures surviving in the thick slime that coats its caves. This mindless bug seems to have sense only through its tendrils. Yet despite that simplicity, it still poses a serious threat. Pond skipper, hard-shelled insect common upon the surface of Shellwood's Pond, once a staple for the food for passing pilgrims. The way they skate along the water surface is so elegant, surely it is a skill that can be learned. When time permits, I should attempt the task. Pond catcher, old catcher over Shellwood's Pond, hearing a long pin and sticking by the haunting. Once a hunter purely for food, now they hunt, unthinking and unending. Splinter, insect formed to imitate a branch, capable of remaining perfectly still for long periods, but unexpectedly swift then roast. Avoiding their ambush is a good test of my senses and my ability to rapidly retaliate. Wood wasp, pointed darting insect that builds a hardly hive from Shellwood's dried bark. Destroying the hives will limit their presence in the wood, useful to me now as I pass along the branches, dangerous in time for the wood's order. Even a small disruption can tip a fragile balance. Sherwood's gnat, tiny soft creature that armors itself using the hard hollow growth of shellwood. If the woody hide is shattered, the bug will still bravely, foolishly try to attack. Splinterhorn, insect formed to imitate a branch born with sharp, retraceable horns atop its head. Its shell gives it the advantage of surprise, but also forces it into the slender, brittle shape, and that cannot withstand a heavy attack. Splinterbark, winged insect with a slaky shell that perfectly mimics its environment. Its assault, like a very young toy, turned deadly. Could I, in time, fashion a spinning tool to match? Sister Splinter, imposing old insect, nesting in the heights of Shellwood. Her command of twig and branches ensured no pilgrim ever survived within her territory. This one lived long and fed much. The wood will be much safer for their slaying. Gallia, flower foe with a core shaped to mimic a mask. The core can be thrust forth to bludgeon unwary bugs. The false mask alone is frightening enough to scare away smaller pests. Polentia, flower foe that reacts instinctively to movement nearby, spits pellets of crackling pollen that burst on impact. What exponential senses it possesses, it detects me with ease, even when not a single sound is made. Phasia, drifting bug disguised as a flower, this paralyzes crackling clouds of pollen if threatened. Quite a beautiful creature in my own kingdom's court, it would have been highly favored as an ornament pet. Shrine Guardian Zeph, eternal defender of Shellwood's shrine. His pin and symbol show many marks of their use. He offered fair warnings and challenged a duel in the purest sense. I admire his honor and his skill. Nulef, ancient heart of Shellwood, connected to all its living things. Her presence would once have maintained the wood's fragile order, allowing the safe passage of bugs across its branches. Firm, burrower that nests in the Belwain and seeks out hard belts to protect its softened body. I would very much like to feel their soft fur, if only they weren't so hostile. Bin ich auch dabei, guckt euch an den Cutie. Winged firm, furred bug beneath a heavy bell. It has grown too large to burrow, but in maturing has developed small wings, huge and soft, a fantastic combination, ruined by the gaunted aggression. Phalid, small arachnid found in many crevices and caves throughout Pellume. Something in their assault reminds me of my own skill. Though my talents are born purely of instinct, my technique is formed from hard training. Phalid diver, arachnid that nested within dark holes in caverns' roofs, pounces on prey from far above. A small hunter learns to wait long in ambush, always ready to strike the first blow. Skrrim, wriggling young grub that lives in darkness. If allowed the opportunity, those creatures will grow into a form larger and more oppressive. Ja, das sind diese mit denen, das sind die hier. Oder? I mean, look at this. Yeah, da 100 Pro. 100%. Sandcarver. Shell-plated worm that lives beneath pools of shifting sand. Bursts forth at movement, stands close, and will consume any object or bug careless enough to fall into its maw. Chardillard, the devious ambusher that poses as a fossil. Once reused, the bug will crash its steely shell into walls, floors, and foes. Judge, gilded guardian of the blasted steppes, bearing a crimble and mallet, they remorselessly eliminate any pilgrim or passerby deemed impure to their sight. The countless husks strewn on paths beside them tell of their conclusive decisions. Last judge, final arbiter of the blasted steps, tasked to ensure only the sinless ever step beyond the grand gate. The huge judge likely stood through countless generations, never defeated, never wavering in their charge. Coral firm, dark-furred bug protecting itself with a spike coral nut. Its fur is thick and silky. Sadly lost to its haunting, I shall never safely be able to touch it. Poke Nabbin, drifting creature with a wide coral mask and hard proboscis to stab its prey, passively waits for prey to blunder into its path, a technique that should not necessarily be derided. Whatever is effective is best. Drisnaga, large male Drisnid, ferocious and territorial, fires its heavy coral mask at intruders. A fine shot with its sharp mask, its aggression has no ill effect on its aim. Drisnid, nesting creatures that fuses its face with sharpened coral. It is easy to be caught off guard by the ricocheting trajectory of its flung mask, especially in tight corners. Conchfly, small bug that crafts a shell of sharpened coral, spins its shell at rapid speed to cut through crust and bone. The way it darts in and out of the ground has almost playful quality to it, an amusing and effective way to ambush prey. Great conchfly, elder conchfly, crowned with a huge coral horn. Once partnered with a mate, they will rarely be seen alone. To pair with another is a base instinct, and one that brings some bugs great joy. I once sought similar union, but of my own mates, none could match my lifespan. Damn! Hornet hat Leute flachgelegt, ja, aha. Was nicht direkt hier steht, ne? Hier steht nur, dass sie mehrere Lebenspartner hatte, also mehrere Geliebte, die aber alle nicht ihre Lebensspanne ausgehalten haben. I mean, Hornet ist ja zum Teil Wirm, also wahrscheinlich ja mehrere hundert Jahre alt ist sie auf jeden Fall und sie wird, meine ich, 1000 bis 10.000 Jahre alt. Crosscrawler, soft-shelled scrambler, encased in coral, hidden amongst the tower's matching crust, the smaller bugs would have survived and thrived. Spinebeak Kai, steel-horned float able to defend itself and its companions, a critical member of the larger flock. Without them present, the Kai would be fast driven to extinction by larger predators. Kai, plump, plentiful drifter of a coral past, they once teemed around their tower, in numbers immense. It is a rare chance to witness such a bountiful display of life. Crosscrack, coral hulk with a dense shell, bred to immense size by the Citadel's memoriam. Nature distorted. This bug was born tiny and mild. The Citadel deformed it in futile hope and may sustain. Steel Spine Kai, Tautenant Kai capable of extending sharp spikes from within its shell sac, seeming soft but hiding a sharp surprise. Any larger predator attempting a bite would learn a pointed and painful lesson. Juma, Galanteous coral drifter of simple mind and placid demeanor, a creature at its most basic. This one is no threat to me or any other. Jumama, large gelatinous drifter, seizes away threats by hurling its bulk around. When defeated, it splits into many smaller forms, yet another remarkable creature of this land before it a monarch. Karaka, staunch and skilled bladebug of a once flourishing land lost to time. The core member of a powerful order, trained far less and faithful. Theirs was a kingdom of warriors, one built up their blades. Kakri, lithe, winged, swords frequently paired with their heavier brethren. Its training resembles my own, favoring fast strikes and rapid movement. Once a hunter perhaps. Yago, white-masked aerial attacker trained to act as support for its grounded companions while remaining at range. Not a frontline force, but in my assault upon the tower all emerged to see me stilled. Karagor, heavy hard-shelled charger relying on weight and strength, far tougher for being matched inside their encrusted domain. They must have lived their whole lives within the tower to command it so. Alita, leaping hunter of a bygone age, the swiftest of their sect, deftly skilled with spinning foreblades. In contests of speed against strength, I have seen the swift more often triumphate, a lesson I have taken to my own heart. Core-crust Karaka, overgrown elder able to spawn burning bubbles from within its coral cased shell. This bug's fashions with the crust growth. It seems intentional, though I imagine the union is far from comfortable. Crust King Khan, hardened warrior lord of a bygone age, able to command the coral crust to its bidding. For his stern stewardship, his legions seemed utterly loyal. For less combative bugs, it would have been a hard rule. Watcher at the edge, old warrior guarding the border of their domain, stiffened by time and awoken by song. They held long at their vigil far beyond the age of their brethren, yet still when roused they swung the blade with remarkable ease. Volsvirm, coiled nest of charged worms, assault intruders with bolts of crackling electricity, barely a bug and possessing only basic, though yet instinct alone proved enough to turn it deadly. Drapefly, erratic flying pest that nests in rags and curtains. Like fabric somehow sprung to life, its pelt is perfectly matched to the rags it infests. Drape Lord, elder drapefly, grown big from age and consumption, its heavy body allows it to hit much harder than its younger companions. Greed will always see some bugs swell above their kin. Rapemite, clove-covered crawler with sharpened forelimbs, lives and breeds in dark places. Falloon structures seem almost built for them. Their endless corners and cracks, so perfectly for mid-mites to burrow and nest. Giant rapemite, full-size mite of the citadel, cloaked in an old curtain. Few creatures of that silk-stickened place would find nourishment enough to grow so large. Underworker, feeble servant of the underwork with a long twist spin and hard shell, with all the refuse collapsing throughout their domain, the worker's stiff shell would be essential if they held any hope to survive. Underscrub, drained yet dedicated laborer, wielding a coarse steel brush, that they ever hoped to keep their domain clean. What futility. Underlove, exhausted bug, grown sickly from the smog of the underworks. The workers' twist spins, once tools of repair, now serve as spun projectiles. The cost of such much grandeur. Did I peer closely enough into the foundations of my own kingdom? Jaw Pouncer, agile bug, and one of few hardly pilgrims to have reached the citadel. Envoy, guide, and oft-times leader within the citadel's shore. Bugs like... wait. Yeah. Once a bug, yet its domain shells would have been first fall. Okay. Bugs like these crossed the caves to bring me to Falloon. I cut down many before my capture, then I had... taught they're minded and cunning. Now I can see the singular will that haunts them all. Undercrank, heavy hard-shelled worker, forever repairing the citadel's crumbling underworks. There seem no ranks in their domain. Yet this one has risen above the rest, a station likely gained through intimidation and puggery. Shore Hornhead, full-grown former pilgrim serving the citadel. Did this one grow large thanks to the citadel's excess, or was its formidable size the reason it ever survived to reach its place? Mein Hals tut weh. Shaw Bellbearer, winged the vault of the citadel, carrying a brace of gilded bells. Falloon proves often the effectiveness of bells as weapons. Never before had I considered them as such. Shoreflyer, aerial bug of the citadel, unarmed but for its short horn. For this bug to have survived Falum's climb, it must have tamed with stouter companions. I cannot imagine it succeeding alone. Read. Disciple of the chore, charged to maintain its perfect order by sharp pin if necessary. A form well suited for combat, live and fast. No surprise it seems to rank so high amongst its cult. Chorister, discipline of the core, elevate above other pilgrims and forced to bold a face forevermore. The use of a pin shows hard training. The use of silk, unfurled from a spool held close, shows skill far beyond standard bugs. Chore elder, age former pilgrims, uses their wings to position above threats and crush them under the large shell. Time allowed the shell to grow thick, all the better for battering their targets. Grand reed, high-standing insects of the chore bearing a bow. This elite reed has been trained and fed beyond its smaller fellows. This bug bears a spool of silk which they flail to attack. Though somewhat crude, theirs is a technique much reminiscent of weavers. I wonder who taught them such a use. Chore clapper. Mighty persuasive discipline of the chore, wielding a mallet and a silk spool to wrap and enhance their attacks. There's no finesse in its use of silk. It consumes its slip supply only to amplify its force. Claw maiden, puppet servant of the citadel, suspended on strings of silk. An early form of automation requiring extensive silk to maintain its service. If given a chance, this one will steal silk from any significant source, including my own shell. Maestro, chore commander of the high halls, able to summon and command cockflies at a flick of their baton. Once they summoned song from their subjects, now they rise only to command and end to those unstrung. Minister, gold-ranked discipline of the chore and direct servant to the citadel's conductors. The lethality of these bugs is unexpected. Their bodies were never built for combat. The haunting has altered their nature dramatically. Memoria, learned discipline of the chore charge to maintain the citadel's memoriam. From the outset, theirs was a hopeless task. Those white lands could never be replicated within a space so artificial. Second Sentinel, Cogwork Knight of Falum, once protector of its pilgrims and master of the Scyther Blade. The talent and intelligence of this construction goes far beyond others I have witnessed. They seem less built as a tool to serve than an attempt at life itself. Drag Husk, remains of a citadel bug possessed by silk drags. The husk will lash out widely with the many sharp pins caught inside its thread. There's old anguish bound upon these threads, the result of countless cruel procedures. Dredge wheel, shell of a small bug possessed by silk drags. The husk will scratch its silk from a crude, crushing wheel, living silk commanding a dead shell, an affront to nature, and one all too common across Falum. The unraveled, tormented will... What is this guy for? Surgeon. Cruel physician of Whiteward, responsible for operation and modifications on the Citadel bugs. The procedures with silk may have prolonged life within the Citadel, but they unknowingly gifted many minds to the monarch. Mortician, altered servant of the Citadel's Whiteward, responsible for the cremation of husks and the recycling of silk from the shells. It lies low to the ground, perhaps out of reverence for its task, but can spring up suddenly to attack. Its shear makes for a deadly weapon with surprising reach. The unraveled, tormented will of countless husks made manifest in a pit of silk drags. The souls of so many bugs obsessed with silk, consumed by it. Their plane shall forever remain in that pit, even I do not possess strength enough to cleanse it. Clockwork underfly, small automation built to work without complaint in the scorching heat of the underwork's cauldron. If it's no wonder these constructions were cast, no mortal bug would last long inside that scorching place. Even my shell struggles to withstand its heat. Clockwork hauler, small automation with a shielded shell intended to carry loads of dangerous flint flame. Born and built only to work until time. Phew, my voice. Stiffen its limbs, perhaps it is mercy this construction knows nothing of the freedom lacks. Clockwork crawler, automation built in the shape of a scuttling bug. Its back contains retraceable pins intended to cut song cylinders free of any obstruction. Its form is certainly based on bugs found outside the citadel. In my own craft work, I too often look to nature for inspiration. Einen Moment, ich gehe kurz was trinken. Mein Wasser ist leer, ich probiere aber irgendwie die Flasche schnell. Ich möchte da nämlich jetzt nicht rausgelassen werden. So, ich habe echt Schmerzen. Vielleicht einen heißen Tee machen. Fuck, ich kann nicht mehr lesen. Ich habe richtig Schmerzen. Cockworker sind wir. Okay, das schaffe ich. Durchbeißen. Boah, fuck, es tut echt weh. Cogworker, flighted automation responsible for repairing and extending the core, more effective and opponent that would be guessed. The precarity of its wielding domain can make even its simple assault a challenge. Cogwork spine, spherical winged automation housing many sharp spikes. I cannot decipher its function to the greater core. Is it built for the defense? If so, its passivity seems far from optimal. Cogwork Chorbug, bug forged of iron, rotor and cog. The automation works tirelessly to maintain the core that houses it. Its core is filled with fine mechanism, but that alone should not produce such a convincing mimic of life. Silk must also be used to animate this artifice, though exactly how I am not sure. Ich muss eine Pause machen. I'm sorry. Mm. Ich werde die Aufnahme jetzt nicht beenden, ich gehe mir kurz einen Tee machen. Dann habt ihr auch eine kurze Pause hier. Ansonsten vorspulen. Lieber einen schönen heißen Ingwertee. Auch wenn er noch abkühlen muss. Cogwork cleanser. Steam shooting automation forged to clean the cogwork core and keep it free of infestation. An inspired use of steam. I must remember its construction when designing future tools. Cogwork defender. Cogwork construction forged primarily for the core's protection. Bears a shield and poke pin, and possesses a lethal understanding of their use. It has no true mind and yet fights effectively, adjusting its strategy to my movements. Where exactly are its thoughts written? Cogwork clapper, rare automation indeed, intended to perform the ringings of bells and cymbals in the depths of the core. I have not yet seen the bell of this automation in its design to ring, nor do I ever wish to hear it. Such a clamor would no doubt be unpleasant to experience. Lamp-bearer, discipline of the Whispering Waltz, tasked to navigate its dim recesses, to retrieve old scrolls, an essential bug if one ever hoped to navigate that dark maze of stacks and scrolls. Worldborn, young acolyte, raised in the darkest vaults, destined to ascend to the rank of scroll reader. In entering the domain, I freed these bugs to infest the greater walls. They are a nuisance, and I have only myself to blame. Clockwork dancers, automations of impeccable construction, welcoming entrance to their chamber with a display of deadly dance. Two cockwork bugs, and yet the souls seemed singular, a sad yet masterful imitation of life, imbued inside shells of iron. Scroll reader, guided servants of the whispering walls, born to read and recall the near endless scrolls of prayer. Did they ever truly understand those inscrutable scrolls, or was it all merely pretense, an endless act to maintain their order station within the citadel? Vault keeper, high caste bug responsible for delivering sermons and leading prayer for those beyond the walls of the Whispering Walls. Most likely this one's true charge was not root out of condemn those not seen as sufficient fervent. Trabio! Haughty Thespian, convinced that only dazzling performance can raise Falum from the throes of death. His desire to see Falum saved may have been well intentioned, but he seemed quite happy for others to die upon the stage in pursuit of his goal. Trobio! 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 Depressed, okay? Tormented Trobio. Depressed, Vespian, consumed by the melancholy of a collapsing word. This one choose to embrace the doom to come. I shall not share such easy surrender. Penitent. By the way, Trobio ist mein Lieblingscharakter im ganzen Game. Penitent. Humbled prisoner serving the sentence for sin committed within the citadel. All are haunted here. The jailers and the jailed. Do they realize they will never leave this place? Or how long they already stayed? Puny penitent. Small bug, shackled and cold for sin committed within the citadel. The thick shroud leaves them sightless, yet it seems to matter little. They have no care for their own safety, wishing only to charge at those they sense as sinful. Fresh fly, instant fly, freshly hatched. At this age, the soft, blind fly is little more than a brother. The less these gruesome bugs breed, the better. Scabfly, sticky young fly, born and grown in service to the slab. Foul creatures burthened into servitude. Their plight elicits no sympathy from me. Guardfly, starved servant of the slab, bearing a hooked long pin. The smell from these jailers overwhelms my senses. I strongly doubt they have ever thought to bathe. One fly, heavy, hairy jailer responsible for capturing sinners and punishing prisoners. Disgusting, both in manner and stench. I feel no remorse to see them felt. Brood mother, mad matriarch of the slab, rarely seen outside her warren. From her all jailers are born and bred. With this one vanquished, I hope to have sped the end for that jail and its disasterful order. Driftlin, gentle glider of Mount Fay, its downy wings and coal allow it to resist even the most cuddling cold. This one would make a perfect pet, but for the freezing temperatures it requires more comfort. Mnemonoid. Lightened creature formed from cold shard. If shattered, it will quickly reform. The cold shard, even when destroyed, it remembers its former shape, a remarkable material, and perhaps even more astonishing, there seems life contained within it. Minimal. Mnemonord. Froh. Huge flightened creature formed from cold shard. This larger form carries so much weight, it can barely move from its place. Muss was trinken? Servitor Ignum. Small constructs built by weavers past, brought to life through silk runes threaded within. Though the weavers have long passed from the loom, the servant still performs its function. Servitor Boron. Broken construct built by weavers past, able to fire a focused beam of silken light to carve halls and chambers through ice and bone. The servitor has been heavily damaged by time and the elements. Its actions have grown erratic. It seems no longer able to discern friend from foe. Winged life seed. Mindless sac filled with plasmium. When broken, the plasmium can be consumed for its temporary benefits to health. My unique shell can resist the darker deformations of the substance, but even I have limits. Plasmid. Mutated young worm infected with plasmium. The new form displays potent regenerative skills. Falum shall quickly learn the curse of the substance. What benefits it provides can be swiftly overweighed. Plasmidas. Large worm mutated heavily by plasmium. The creature has become fused to the roof of its cave, no longer able to move freely. In my home caves, when once this substance was allowed to flourish, I saw similar aberrations. This is wonder tainted, strong with revolution. Plasmified Zango. Husk of an alchemist's assistant, granted false life by plasmium. He carelessly seeded these caves with that cursed substance. His final fate seems fair reward for those efforts, yet I feel some sympathy. It is an allerging power. Leaf glider. Fine-winged flyer that survives in flocks. So light they can rest atop still water surface, an elegant bug indeed. Leaf roller. Pointed scurrier posing as plant life. Simple, graceful, another fine bug lost forever from these lands. Pendra, flight insect that lives beside still waters. Though generally passive, their sharp mask can cause injury if carelessly blundered into. Pendragore, weavy insect that lives near large bodies of water. Its weight body is best avoided. When they do not hinder my path, I find their simple motion rather pleasant. Naphtha, predatory plant with a powerful jaw shaped to resemble a lily pad. A snapping surprise on first encounter, though one easily avoided once aware. Cloverstack, placid native of Verdania. Its height closely mimics the flora of its territory, an impressive act of mimicry to match the closely with its land. Their clover caves must have sustained through generations uncounted. Palestack, fabled first clover stack of Verdania's wilds, comments the grass and leaves to aid its attack. Myth made real in memory, the creature seemed completely at one with the flora around it. Did it ever truly exist as I have seen it? Escallion, blindingly fast, winged warrior able to launch pointed ponions from its forelimbs, born with many tools I would once have desired for myself. Fortunately, I have trained hard around those limits. Vedania, darting warrior with sharpened forelimbs and heightened senses. They rarely relax, always alert for potential danger. Even deep in their own territory, to defeat them, my focus must much match their own. Kindanir, child of Vedania, fully capable to fight despite its young age. Fierce and fast in defending their land, even from birth. These are children to be proud of. Clover dancers, dual princes of old Vedania. Princess, also Mehrzahl von Prince, nicht Prinzessin. Beloved by their subjects for their graces and for the ballad of death they delivered upon outsiders. For one to love another so similar to themselves, is that selfless or vain? Shadow Creeper, shell-plated worm, find only in the deepest depths, seem to survive despite consuming no food or liquid. A creature long familiar to me, I suspect that no matter how far I travel, if I descend deep enough they will always be there. Shadow Charger, bulky worm of the deepest depths, lives in tight crevices and uses its weight body to better. These ones grow large, yet I have never observed them eating or sleeping. They seem such simple bugs, but I suspect they are not truly our cousins. Gloomsack, tiny empty creature, barely a bug, swallows its prey whole and sucks their nutrients until nothing remains. This one disturbs me. There is something in its simplicity. Do I almost feel fear? Gurgent Gloom, enormous tubular beast uniquely suited to living close to the void below. Ich finde das Ding so widerlich. Amazingly, the creature carries the void's black liquid in its stomach, violently spraying it forth if threatened. Void tendrils, leashing fragments of pure darkness shaped into sharpened tentacles. The void that will claim all things. In the barbed forms it chooses its nature can be seen clear. Void mass, dense knot of husks bound tight by void-soaked silk. Silken shells corrupted, that void seeks now to claim this land bowl. These poor shells are only the beginning. Wing mold, false fly with a rune-etched shell, a tortured mix of soul and void is caged within. A crude construct of my father's fallen domain. Only fool believes that void can be fashioned to do their bidding. Garpit, sightless burrower that reacts violently to the slightest sound, a common enough bug, though not to be underestimated. The acuteness of their other senses more than makes up for their lack of vision. Immoba, slow drifting bug with a heavy topshell. The bug reacts little to threats, even those that could claim its life. The poor creature has lived a life too calm and coddled. It would not fare well in the world beyond its walls. Skrill, common crawler that lives beneath sand. The surface dweller is free of silk, its nature remains its own. The monarch's influence must only have stretched below it. Bell Eater, long dormant centipede, awoken and enraged by Falum's crumbling collapse. Ist das Ding nicht doch vielleicht das Vater von den Kindern? Das eine Ding, weil, Bro, wo kommen die Kinder eigentlich her von Bell Beast? A monster in the classic form of tales from youth. Its slaying was done as much by my fierce traveling companion as by myself. Huge flea, oversized bug, briefly consumed by anger after its long-time cage. I would not have guessed so large and marvelous a flea existed. I am pleased it saw sense before I had to strike and kill blow. I had to strike a killing blow. Chakra, warrior cartographer of a tribe from Falum's edge. Her skills in battle could challenge the kingdom's best. She has lived a mere fraction of my lifetime, and yet her rings prove a ferocious match. As gifted as a warrior as I have ever encountered, and one I am fortunate to call a friend. Horn hat Freunde gemacht. Lost Garment, Old Night, consumed by Black Thread. Ja, er ist ja tot. Wir haben ihn aber gekillt. A tragic fate for a once honorable buck. Those void-soaked threads, their physical might is nothing compared to the corruption they wreak upon a soul. Pinstress, Blade Maiden of a once renowned warrior sect, survived long beyond the rest of her order. I like her, for her willingness to teach and her spirit still strong despite a long age spent solitary. She has my respect. Widow, crazed fanatic, able to guide Falum's haunted silk by music played upon it. Her body seemed a weaver's, but her mask has been forcibly removed, and her own silk was bound useless by heavy pins, lodged through her spine. First sinner, ancient weaver, condemned for a transgression lost to time. This once husk held a masterful talent to weave silk into blazing runes. Throughout my life I have seen runes woven for many tasks. Was she the first to hone such skills? Phantom, mournful creature tasked alone to expel the citadel's choking refuse. The talent with a long pin is unmatched. Though grey with age, their frayed form suggests a being strung from silk, one who welcomed a decisive end in combat over a slow line. Lace, manic fencer who delights in battle, a bug born entirely of thread. Much silk would have been needed to see us sustained, a fragile form of life, but life nonetheless. Grandmother Silk, monarch of Falum, and the primal source of silk, heart of the haunting, long lulled to slumber and desperate to wake, the higher being's threads stretched throughout Falum, snaring its bug and driving them to madness and discord. Lost lace, silk-spun child possessed by the void. To quell the mother's rage and see this kingdom saved, I will claim her back. This one the dark shall not take. Puh. Und damit, liebe Leute, haben wir True 100%. Es werden noch Folgen wahrscheinlich kommen mit so ein paar Extras. Als Beispiel, was ich noch testen wollte, waren so zum Spaß so ein paar Kombinationen mit den ganzen Fähigkeiten und hier den Skills. Da gibt es ein paar Sachen. Als Beispiel das hier mit Gift durchballern oder das hier irgendwie, so lustige Sachen, dass man so für Schadenssachen machen kann etc. Und irgendwas war dann noch, was ich machen wollte. Ja genau, das Ende, wo ich Silk Mother infiziert kille, muss ich ja auch noch machen. Da muss ich einen neuen Spielstand oder so aufmachen. Wie auch immer, vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen. Damit hätten wir alles durch. Was ein Abenteuer. Boah, schaut euch das Finale an, da kriegt ihr auch meine Bewertung und meine Meinung zum Spiel etc. Und damit, ciao Leute.